We are on the north end of Saginaw Bay. Due to COVID-19, music from the marsh is not able to be presented live at the Bay City State Park, but we arranged a getaway weekend with some very good friends of ours at their cabin up here in Erie on the north end of the bay, because we couldn't think of a better place with good Wi-Fi to bring you a concert live with Murdock. You can hear it's pretty windy out here, so we're going to come inside, and that's where we're going to do the conference from.
Well, welcome everybody to Saginaw Bay, and the beautiful, beautiful Saginaw Bay. My name is Murdock, of course, doing a program for the Music from the Marsh. It's a virtual series, in 2020 virtual series, music series, brought to you by the Friends of the Bay City State Park with funding from the Michigan Council of Arts and Cultural Affairs, as well as the Saginaw Arts Commission, and of course, donations from our viewers. You can help support this series by donating to the Friends group, and after the concert, send us a message on Facebook, okay? And I'm going to get underway now with one of our favorite songs.
Sweet Mother Michigan, Father Superior, coming down from Mackinac and Sault Ste. Marie. The water Huron rolls down to Lake Erie, falls into Ontario and runs on out to sea. The Great Lakes are diamond on the hand of North America, a bright shining jewel on that friendship border. It's a freshwater highway coming down from Canada, and all along the coastline you can hear the people say, Sweet Mother Michigan, Father Superior, coming down from Mackinac and Sault Ste. Marie. The water Huron rolls down to Lake Erie, falls into Ontario and runs on out to sea. Hardy are the seamen on the ships that blow the iron ore, hauling out at Thunder Bay, bound for Buffalo. And hardy are the fishermen, like their fathers were before. They say, bury me at sea when it's my time to go. Sweet Mother Michigan, Father Superior, coming down from Mackinac and Sault Ste. Marie. The water Huron rolls down to Lake Erie, falls into Ontario that runs on out to sea. Down below the quarterdeck, old red men the fishing nets, while up on the windy bridge, young men listen to the wind, up and down the winter streets, the wives and mothers lie awake, they pray our Lady of the Faith, will make them home again. Father Superior, coming down from Mackinac and Sault Ste. Marie. The water Huron rolls down to Lake Erie, falls into Ontario and runs on out to sea. Singing, Sweet Mother Michigan, Father Superior, coming down from Mackinac and Sault Ste. Marie. The water Huron rolls down to Lake Erie, falls into Ontario and runs on out to sea. song written by Pat Dailey and Shel Silverstein, and I learned it from the great folk singer Bob Gibson. I thought I'd feature a few songs on Lake Huron tonight since we're on this lovely shoreline. This is a song that I wrote about one of my true heroes on the Great Lakes, Dennis Hale, who grew up in northern Ohio, but also really spent a lot of time in the southern part of the state in his later years. But when he was 26 years old, he was a deckhand on the Daniel J. Burrell. And in the last trip of the voyage, the last voyage of the season, they were heading north on Lake Huron when tragedy struck. And he found himself on an open light raft in huge mountainous seas, temperature of the air 32 degrees, temperature of the water 44. And nothing but a woolen peacoat, his life jacket, and his underwear. And he told me it was J.C. Penney underwear he was wearing. You betcha, that's what I wear too. You never know what's going to happen. But this is his story. When he told me this story, he said, "I don't know why I survived. Perhaps to tell this story." Voices across the water. First thing I remember as a little boy was the hot summer days down at the harbor. Big boats coming in and the black smoke hanging low, drifting back all the way to the horizon. All the way to the horizon. It was a slow motion dance on a Sunday afternoon for one so young and in a hurry. The rhythm of the engines kept the time for all the crew. You could hear their voices cross the water. Their voices cross the water. I was waiting, waiting, waiting to go home. The next thing I remember was the Windsor Mullen Dock. I was there with the crewmen in the office. We had missed the departure of our boat from Buffalo. You could see her lights on the horizon. Her lights on the horizon. So we motored down the thruway and flew through Ohio up to Detroit, then back across to Windsor. You can meet us there, the captain said, on the ship to shore. You could hear his voice across the water. His voice across the water. I was waiting, waiting, waiting to get aboard. And later that night, while curled in my bunk, the anchors and chains and the sorted all the junk went a clanging and a banging as the weather outside rose. With every pitch and roll, it sent a shiver to my toes. Waiting, waiting, waiting to fall asleep. Last thing I remember was the buckling of steel in a sudden roar that shook me from my slumber. Our boat broke into the stern, shoved the bow aside, and plowed on all the way to the horizon. All the way to the horizon. It was a slow motion dance on a stormy, angry sea for water so small and unimportant. A huge swell swept us overboard. As she went down, you could hear voices across the water. Voices across the water. I was waiting, waiting for the end to come. Now my hands and feet are frozen as this raft is tossed about in the turmoil and spread across the water. And of all of my shipmates, I'm the only left alive all alone, all the way to the horizon. All the way to the horizon. So cold, all the way to the horizon. Well, that story happened just down the coast a little ways. Harbor Beach is where she went down, right at the south point of the entrance to Saginaw Bay. Back in 1966, he was out there for 38 hours. Can you imagine that? Makes me shiver just thinking about it. But in this kind of summer weather, that kind of sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I don't know. Let's see here. Well, we got to do another old favorite song. This is one I learned when I was a kid. Many of you did too, and it celebrates an amazing engineering feat. The early 19th century, building of the Erie Canal. I got a new land, her name is Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's a good old worker, a good old pal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. We hauled some barges in our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay. And we know every step of the way, from Albany to Buffalo. Low Ridge, everybody down. Low Ridge, while we're coming to a town. You'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal. Ever navigated on the Erie Canal. We better get along on our way, old gal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. There's not another mule as good as Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. Get her out there, Sal. Here comes a lock. We'll make room about 6 o'clock. One more trip, then back we'll go. Right on back home to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, for we're coming to a town. You'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. Now, where would I go if I lost my pal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. There's not another mule as good as Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. I had a friend that got her sore. Now he's got a broken jaw, 'cause she let go with the iron toe and kicked him clear back to Buffalo. Low Ridge, everybody down. Low Ridge, follow coming to a town. You'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. Well, you'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. A song written by Thomas Allen in 1913. Now, he was on Tin Pan Alley, actually. So, and it was a song that was celebrated the opening of the New York Barge Canal in 1913 and the closing of the old Erie Canal. Ghost story from the shores of Lake Michigan. Alice Gray, Diane of the Dunelands. Seagulls and plovers circle in the air. They swirl and dip in the dancing waves like they haven't got a care. They call out to her on the rising breeze that flows along the pounding surf and through the rustling trees. The ending of the day is now in store. Indigo and starlit black descend upon the shore. Her presence can be felt within the wind. Her history imprinted on every grain of sand. Of the Dunelands, Diana of the Dunelands, Diana of the Dunelands. Diana came to live here years ago, a refugee from society in the town of Chicago. They say she was just following a dream to dwell amid the drifting dunes, a simple life supreme. Diana of the Dunelands, Diana of the Dunelands, Diana of the Dunelands. Come to me. Some say they found her on the beach alone. Others say they never found a trace, not a single bone. Still she walks these dunes each and every night. See her in the shifting sands lit by the pale moonlight. Diana of the Dunelands. Diana of the Dunelands. Diana of the Dunelands. Come to
A song that I wrote. Well, except that last word, which is called jazz. Little Louis Armstrong got on me here for a second. Let me get my voice back here. That's a little better. Oh, I was going to do this song too. I know there's a lot of people that have favorite songs, and this is one I learned from the Singing of Art theme many, many years ago. Lovely song from Lake Superior region, Keweenaw Peninsula, by Craig Johnson, who grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but he spent his summers with his grandmother up on the Keweenaw, and wrote this song called The Banks of Cold Waters. I've traveled this country from the Keweenaw headlands, where the wild gulls do cry, or the rocks to the sea, or the cold Indian Ocean to the Manitou Island, far away from my home, strange places to see. The stars, they shine bright on the south shore tonight. The Keweenaw light sweeps over the bay. And the dreams could come true, I'd still be there with you. On the banks of cold waters at the close of the day. I've been through the boom towns of a century dying, past the ruins of the smelters and the rusted head frames, down through Mohawk, Amic, Calumet and Lorient, 100 sad places that are past with no names. The stars, they shine bright on the south shore tonight. The Keweenaw light sweeps over the bay. And if dreams could come true, I'd still be there with you. On the banks of cold waters at the close of the day. I've counted the crossed eyes, the dried bones of the railroad that stretch from the dawn to the end of the day. And I've counted the miles between me and my true love, the lines on the highways that carried me away. The stars, they shine bright on the south shore tonight. The Keweenaw light sweeps over the bay. And if dreams could come true, I'd still be there with you. On the banks of cold waters at the close of the day. All the leaves have turned golden, the summer's nigh over, the wild geese fly low over Lake Manganese. In that faraway country, we walk by slow rivers, alongside cold waters, neath the whispering trees. The stars, they shine bright on the south shore tonight. The Keweenaw light sweeps over the bay. And if dreams could come true, I'd still be there with you.
waters at the close of the day. The stars they shine bright on the south shore tonight. Here when all light sweeps over the bay. And if dreams could come true, I'd still be there with you. On the banks of cold waters at the close of the day. Gray Johnson song, and it's kind of a reminiscence of when Joanne and I first went up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and North Country Folk Festival back in 1980, and it was really quite fun to be up there and seeing the magnificent big lake like that. Now we're going to go just a little bit south and go to northern Lake Michigan for this next song about a fisherman on an island called Beaver Island. His name was Wesley Brown, but I'm going to tell you a little bit of a fish story, a little fish history first of me. I'm not really much of a fan of eating fish. Both my brothers will attest to that. But you know, when duty calls, I partake, and it's fine. But I did go on one major fishing trip when I was young, back in 1968, I think, and it was in northern Wisconsin. And Dad and I were out on the Minot Flowage, I think it was. And we were fishing, and I was using a Rapala, and Dad was using a weedless worm. And Len Moreline, who was our guide, was taking us around, and this is like 4:30 in the morning, so you go out in the morning, then you come in for breakfast, and then you go out in the evening. That's kind of what the protocol was. And so we were tooling around, and I was having some pretty good luck catching a small and largemouth bass, and obviously beginner's luck. And Dad was not having any luck at all. And finally, he got a strike, and he caught a northern pike, and he got it right up next to the boat. And now, keep in mind is whenever we didn't really have a fishing net to get the fish into the boat, okay? And so what Dad would do with the bass, he would just put his thumb right in the mouth of the fish and then get it out and put it in the boat. Not a big deal. And so he got that northern pike up there, and he looked at me, and I don't know if he had a gleam in his eye or not, but he said, "Now what I want you to do is do what I did. Put your thumb in the mouth of that fish and get it on here." And I looked at the mouth and I saw nothing but teeth. Nothing but teeth at all. And I said, I don't know about this. And so I kind of got it up by the gills, and it gave me a nice little cut on the gill, but we got in the boat, and I have to admit, it was pretty good eating too. We had it later on that summer. And so it's with that in mind that I'm going to be singing the song about a fisherman. Believe it or not, that is not a tall tale, but this song kind of attributes to tall tales. It's called The Fisherman Yankee Brown. My boys, if you will listen, I will sing to you a song. It's about a man you know well, whose tales are often strong. He is a well-known fisherman who lives here in our town. He's a very northern lawyer, his name is Yankee Brown. And soon did he right to the and a whack on the rhyme. This man was born in Yorkton, who worked up to teen. The greatest thing he ever did, greatest ever seen. He farmed and lumbered half the state, but found it too confined. So he came to Beaver Island in the year of '79. And soon did he right to the on a whack dollar rhyme. When Erie started fishing and following up his trade, and several times he told me his fortune he had made. These acres by the thousands and pounders by the score, and $20,000 in a bank in Baltimore. And soon did he right to the on a whack dollar rhyme. One day when he was fishing down on Hog Island ground, he swore he caught a whitefish weighed 150 pounds. At first I didn't believe it, till he began to swear. He said he'd fetch his young son to prove the story there. And soon did he right to the on a whack dollar rhyme. Now his boat goes the Matty, and the the truth to you I'll tell. Several times he has rebuilt her, and he can sail her well. He said while beating down the lake, he had to come about and healed her in the sea so far she scooped in 30 trout. And sing right to the young man, a white $4 right. And sing right to the young man, a white $4 right. Fisherman Yankee Brown. Now I'll have to tell you folks, it's very disconcerting to be singing a song and having the camera person shaking her head like this. It's like, what am I doing wrong?
I didn't believe it.
She didn't believe it. Well, I won't be able to sell her a bridge then, I guess. Maybe that was a bridge going too far. I'm going to do another song from one of my early albums. And this has a kind of an interesting story too from history, from my personal history. Many years ago, I was fortunate enough to be acquainted with a fellow named George Ryan. And George Ryan was president of Lake Carriers Association, and he saw a number of my shows. And one time he came by and said, "We got to get you on some of those boats." And I said, "Sure, let me know." And so, sure enough, later on that summer, he called up and said, "Can you be in Toledo at 4 o'clock to get on the Armco on such and such date?" And I said, "Actually, I was up here on Saginaw Bay," and we were kind of going like, "Well, yeah, I can do that." And so we'd be our way home. It was a couple days away. We went home and dropped Joanne back off at the house, and then came back up over to Toledo. And it was, now the Armco was 729 feet long, 75 feet wide, when you're about over 30 feet in the pilot house over the water. And you might have noticed during some of my shows this evening, there's some the personal watercraft out there, buzzing around and stuff. Well, we were coming out of the Maumee River, right by the Toledo Harbor Light. And we're proceeding at 4, 5, 6 knots because it's very shallow there. We aren't going very fast at all. And we have this one guy with a personal device circling the vessel. And Abrahamson, the captain, who was a reserve captain, he kind of shook his head, and I said, "What happens if he loses his gasoline right at the wrong time?" And that's kind of what you have to deal with, out there on the water. But what was really interesting is on the way back, because we got into Silver Bay, Minnesota on Lake Superior and loaded iron ore out of there. We left about 9 o'clock, I think. And on the return trip, it was gorgeous out on Lake Superior. The sun was speckled day, and the wheelsman, Bill Johnson, was on, third wheelsman was on the wheel. We were talking in the pilot house, and out of the blue, he said, "It's no fun out here anymore." I said, "What are you talking about? It's a gorgeous day. We're doing 14 knots, and we've got a full load, and we're heading down." And he said, "I don't care what you say, it's no fun out here anymore." I said, "Oh, well, why do you say that?" He said, "I'm going to tell you one word, efficiency." I said, "Efficiency?" He said, "Yeah, back in the old days, well, you go into a port and you'd wait 2 or 3 days to get loaded or unloaded, and then you head out, Nowadays, you're in and out in 6 hours." And he said, "Lee, you can't get in trouble in 6 hours." A song by Kevin O'Donnell called Downbound, Down Superior. On a logging road by the oakwood vine, I walked the headlands above the pine. I was young and the world was new, and a boy had time to do what he would do. I'd often wondered to this lonely place, and let the sun caress my face, breathing deep the icy spray, blowing on the wind across some thunder day. On the horizon I can see a flash, another big steel freighter closing fast. A cold gray silence in her way as she plows a lonely furrow down the way. Now Downbound on Superior, headed to the lakes below. The portside only bed, I wish that I could go. I stand there in this clearing now and gaze up from the shore, but seldom see your boats anymore. You will seldom see your boats anymore. Would gently rise and dip behind and back down the skies, sliding homeward one more time. These weary young ladies of the line and Canal as they go rolling past, all of their hatches from for the rest. There they meet with a record hall. The steel mills down in Erie, Detroit or Montreal. Downbound on Superior, headed to the lakes below. The portside only bed, I wish that I could go. I stand there in this living now and gaze up from the shore, and seldom see your boats anymore. You seldom see your boats anymore. As they came, and left behind with nothing but her name, turning our heels, slipping out of sight. If the weather held, she'd make the shoe by early morning light. Downbound on Superior, headed to the lakes below. The portside only bed, I wish that I could go. I stand here in this living now and gaze up from the shore, seldom see your boats anymore. You seldom see your boats anymore. You seldom see your boats anymore. You seldom see your boats anymore. Hot sultry days. I like the one today where we had a real strong breeze. Sometimes it can be very still. The water can be just as smooth as glass. Perhaps a puff of a cloud on the horizon. But it's those types of conditions where you have to be very careful because things can change very quickly. Because that crystalline water can start to undulate. A puff of a cloud can start to build, and the wind can build. Before you know it, you find yourself in the middle of a huge storm that blows up out of nowhere. Those storms have a special name. We call them squalls. Stan Rogers, the great Canadian songwriter, wrote what I consider the definitive song about this type of storm. A squall that has so much energy that you can't tell where the water ends and the sky begins. The old timers call those white squalls. Well, it's just my luck to have the wash, with nothing left to do. Watch the deadly waters glide as we roll north to the Sioux. I wonder will now turn again and pitch us to the rail and whirl off one more youngster in the gale. The The kid was so damn eager, it was all so big and new. You never had to tell him twice or find him work to do. And evenings on the mess deck, he was always first to sing or show us pictures of the girl he'd wed in spring. But I told that kid 100 times, don't take the lakes for granted. They go from calm to 100 knots so fast, they seem enchanted. And tonight's a night where ten girl lies staring at the wall, and her lover's gone into a white squall. Now there's a thing that us old timers know. In a sultry summer calm, there comes a blow from nowhere, and it goes off like a bomb. And a 15,000 tonner can be thrown upon her beam as the gale takes all before it with a scream. The kid was on the hatches, lying staring at the sky, and from where I stood I swear I could see tears fall from his eyes. So I hadn't the heart to tell him that he should be on a line, even on a night so warm and fine. But I told that kid 100 times, don't take the lakes for granted. They go from calm to 100 knots so fast, they seem enchanted. And tonight's a midnight where ten girl lies staring at the wall, and her lover's gone into a white squall. He set up to start. I roared to him, get down, but for all that he could hear, I could as well not make a sound. So I clung there to the stanchions, and I felt my face go pale as he crawled hand over hand along the rail. Then I could feel he heeled over in the fury of the ball. I watched the rail go under, then too terrible and too slow. And like some great dog she shook herself and roared a fright again. And far overside I heard him cry my name. And I told that kid 100 times, don't take the lakes for granted. They go from calm to 100 knots so fast, they seem enchanted. And some nights in the night where ten girl lies staring at the wall, and her lover's gone into a white squall. So it's just my luck, I have to watch, with nothing left to do. I watch the deadly waters wide as we roll off to the Sioux. I wonder when they'll turn again and pitch us to the rail, and whirl off one more youngster in the gale. In the gale. In the gale. Stan Rogers. Well, that needs a traditional song. I haven't done too many traditional songs tonight. I'll do this one with a little story before it. This was given to Ivan Walton, a professor of English at the University of Michigan, who was collecting folk songs a long time ago, back in the late, early to 30s. And it was there in Chicago they met this fellow named Robert Collin at the sailors' home there. Now, back in those days, the sailors' nursing homes had this little counter in the back where they could, the sailors could come up and get an occasional adult beverage. And so this professor walks in and sees a few guys at the back counter and
fella behind and serving beer or whatever. And he introduced himself. I'm Professor Walton, and I'm looking for old folk songs sung by sailors on the schooners. There's one fellow there named Robert Cullen. He said, well, I know all the songs. He said, oh, that's great. He said, but it's going to cost you money. And so he said, well, I've got some money. And he said, okay, well, you give me that money and then I'll come back tomorrow and I'll give you all the songs you want. I said, okay. So he gave him some money, and next day he came back and there was nobody there other than the fellow behind the counter. And he said, where's everybody? He said, oh, you're that professor guy, aren't you? He said, yep. Yeah. I said, you gave one of those guys some money. He said, yep. And where is he? He said, oh, you must have given him too much money because he's not here. However, from that very shaky start, Robert Cullen became a great source for the traditional songs that were sung in those days, and also he wrote this poem. And by the way, he had a nickname, as all the sailors had nicknames on the schooners. His name was Broken Back Bob Kong, when he broke his back falling from the cross trees in 1875 in Cleveland Harbor. And this is a poem that he wrote that kind of gives you the spirit of the schoonermen in the late 19th century. And it's called Up Anchor.
Oh, we got the rusty mud hookup, she's green with Chicago's line. We're sailing in the gale with the North City's grind. We'll have to be on through waterways of things. We'll drink our fill of winds that hail across the bow and through the hatches spill. Oh, drink Jamaican Castle before our trip is done. We'll fight and pray and fight again through spray that plays a ton. We'll sit around the forecastle and each man in his bare feet, and slap the greasy cards about and play the can't be beat. Oh, we'll tell our tales and talk of home, the sailor men will do. We'll brag of girls in other ports and wonder if they're true. We'll split the old harmonica with all the tunes we know, and then begin again unless we have a fight below. Oh, we'll hate each other worse than rats that dream of sinking ship before we reach another port and get this tough to slip. When we drop the hook, and it will say, all left and get your pay. Then we'll roll ashore and spend our dough and ship another day.
Let's see here. We got time for a few more songs, I think.
Yeah.
Let's do. I'm gonna try and see if I can come up with something that is.
Watching Lake Michigan roll?
Well, that's the wrong guitar right now.
Oh.
I'll have to do that one. I'll do that next time. I'll
Okay.
be watching. Next month I'll do that one. Okay. That's a great Larry Penn song, but.
Shores of Lake
I'll
Michigan.
do this one.
Okay.
Another Larry Penn song. This is a song about the Carl D. Bradley, broken to off of Beaver Island in 1958. Two survivors, Frank Mays, first mate Elmer Fleming. There's nothing you can do, said the captain to the crew.
The weather is getting cold, it's getting colder. The weather is getting cold, and the Bradley's getting old, and there's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. There's nothing you can do, said the captain to the crew. The seas are on their rise, they're getting higher. The seas are on the rise, made the captain realize there's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. Over 50 years ago, stories should be told, and none of them will come around to say, but that's so cold and long should not be without a song. And there's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. There's nothing you can do, said the captain to the crew. The seas are on the rise, they're getting higher. The seas are on the rise, made the captain realize there's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. There's nothing you can do, said the captain to the crew. The spar deck was awash, it's getting wetter. The spar deck was awash, and the Bradley ship was lost. And there's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. Over 60 years ago, stories should be told, but none of them will come around to say, oh, your night's so cold and long should not be without a song. There's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. Over 60 years ago, stories should be told, but none of them will come around to say, but a night so cold and long should not be without a song. And there's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. There's nothing you can do, said the captain to the crew. The first mate came beside to wait for orders. First mate came beside, heard the captain when he cried, there's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. There's nothing you can do, said the captain to the crew. The whistle's blowing long, it's blowing shorter. The whistle's blowing long, and another freighter's gone. And there's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. There's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. There's nothing that you can do, Mr. Fleming. Great song by Larry Penn. Larry was a very good songwriter and entertainer. Very good. He's pretty handy with a semi-tractor trailer too. That was his actual job. Probably his most famous song was I'm a Little Cookie, as a matter of fact. In the folk music circles, that was very popular years ago. About how we all have our own unique gifts. And I got time for a couple more songs. I'm going to do the title cut of my most recent album, Loving Light. And I wrote this in my little studio. Now some of you folks have seen where I do my practicing and stuff, and it's a wonderful little space, and it's a lot smaller than it looks, I'll tell you that. But it's a wonderful, cozy space. And I was looking out that window out north and seeing a beautiful fall day. And the wind was really screaming out there, and the leaves were dancing in the wind, that's for sure. And I was thinking about, memories and things like that in the old days. And that's when this song happened. Whenever I do this song, I remember the Elroy folk singer Art Dame remarked from stage many times that he said, when your memory goes, just forget it. A blue north that blows hard through the trees around the homestead. The sun-speckled day is coming to a close, and my thoughts harken back to the days of my childhood, where the leaves of my memory ever rose. As it rolls across the ground beneath my toes. Oh, in spring meadows would sing with beauty all around us. The hazy days mellowed and a wondrous refrain. Then the air filled with snowflakes that settle on every surface, drifting and mounting all out across the plain. All these scenes arose within my brain. Memories are like fireflies in the evening. They dazzle bright, and then wink out of sight. Memories are the signposts of a lifetime, basking in the glow of loving light. And in fall we all would dance amid the realm of autumn's bounty. The hazy days mellow, and a wondrous refrain. And the air swirled with snowflakes that settle on every surface, drifting and mounting all out across the plain. All these scenes are woven deep within my brain. Memories are like fireflies in the evening. They dazzle bright and then wink out of sight. Memories are the signposts of a lifetime, basking in the glow of loving light. So that blue north plays hard through the trees around the homestead, as the sun-speckled day is coming to a close. Oh, turn my thoughts instead to better times and our tomorrows, where the leaves of our memory ever grows, like slender blades of new spring grass beneath our toes. Memories are like fireflies in the evening. They dazzle bright and then we out of sight. Memories are the signposts of a lifetime, basking in the glow of loving light. Basking in the glow of loving light. Loving light. So thank you very much for allowing me to come into your evening, and thank you very much for the folks at Bay City State Park for being a supporter all these years, and folks go out and support the Friends of the Bay City State Park, because they do great work, not just for these concerts, but also for other cultural events throughout the calendar year. So I'll finish up real quick with one final song, a song called The Parting Glass. And learned this from Jackie Manning, Small Potatoes. And I'll leave you with this. Until next time, farewells to you all. Oh, for all the money that e'er I spent it in good company. And for all the harm that e'er I did, alas, was done to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass Good night and the joy be with you all. Oh, for all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away. And for all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they beg me one more day to stay. But since it falls into my lot that I should rise, while you should not, I will gently rise and softly call. Good night and the joy be with you all. Yes, since it falls unto my lot that I should rise, while you should not, I will gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be with you all. Good evening from Saginaw Bay. Thank you very much.